So now we get into looking into some stories making headlines in the East African region, zooming into this region with our journalist and team leader at Grassroot Journalism Kenya, our resident analyst for this insert, Dennis Beru. Dennis, how are you on this Tuesday?
Morning, Asanda. I'm well. I hope you are well in South Africa.
We well too, as thank you so much. So today for our East Africa wrap, let's start with Malawi's elections. They're going into elections on 16th September. And this election is seen as something that could help to end human rights violations. What does the human rights situation look like in Malawi as things stand?
All right. Thank you so much, Asanda. Of course, Malawians will be heading to elections in a few, or rather than a few days. And of course, the Amnesty International have come out clearly to call for, of course, a peaceful election. And of course, they're also looking at making sure that those who will be elected, both the president, parliament, and members of the council or the councillors will have to uphold making sure that the Malawians access to right to food, women rights, rights to freedom of association and expression, and of course the rights to person with disabilities, including with albinism. Of course, in a statement by the regional director of East Africa, that is for the Amnesty International, he said that it is a step in the coming government to must review and reform the laws restricting the rights of freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and association, of course, to ensure that effective realization of human rights. And Tigere Chaguta also added that, of course, the current leadership promised to clear the rebels of impunity, to operationalize access to Information Act and other laws protecting the human rights. But very minimal has been done on this. That's why they are calling on the Malawians as they go to election to ensure that they elect leaders who will ensure that these rights have been upheld. Of course, we've been looking at the election that is happening from that is 16th of September, where we expect Malawians to elect a new president, member of parliament, and councillors.
What is Amnesty International's assessment of the situation, and what are they calling for on the presidential candidates?
Of course, Amnesty International is calling for, first of all, peaceful elections for these upcoming elections. And of course, we have seen less efforts to ensure that there is a freedom of association for civil society organization. And of course, they want government to continue making sure that, of course, first of all, government to continue using electronic transaction of our Cyber Security Act for 2016 to suppress peaceful, decent, and of course, we've seen journalists being harassed, and they are calling on for the government to ensure that, of course, journalists and other civil society organizations and other stakeholders must be protected during this election. Of course, these are very critical moments for the Malawians because we've seen a very tight race between the current president, Chakwera, and the former president, Mutharika. And of course, Amnesty International is calling to protect women, LGBTQ people and persons living with the disability. And we do not know whether the two main candidates who are vying for this seat will ensure that women are being protected, LGBTQ community, and person living with disability, and of course, making sure that the freedom of expression in Malawi is being exercised.
Okay, let's move to Kenya, and the country has launched its first astro tourism offering in Samburu. What is astro tourism, first of all?
Thank you so much. Of course, astrotourism, this is giving an opportunity to a tourist to to view the night skies using the astro, and of course astrotourism, which is more of astronomy education, cultural experience, and the pristine night skies with minimal light pollution. Of course, where this has been launched, that is the Samburu County. It is a region which offers the darkest skies in Africa. Of course, this now creates, an ideal condition for the observation of constellations and meta shows and planetary movement. And Kenya becomes, I think, the second country in Africa to have these after Namibia. And of course, we have a country like Chile, which has been, which has this technology. And of course, these will give tourists and people will be touring the Samburu National Reserve an opportunity to enjoy the night skies. And of course, this was launched, which also coincided with the lunar eclipse that we recently witnessed, dubbed the blood moon, that started around 8:30 p.m. and lasted for 82 minutes. And the Minister for Tourism revealed that, of course, this is a pioneer project that will aim to place Kenya at a global astro tourism map. Of course, tapping into the growing niche that already gained traction in the countries that I mentioned, that is Namibia and Chile.
Did you get to see and witness that lunar eclipse called the blood moon? I didn't even know it was something that was happening. A friend of mine told me about it, and luckily I was able to step out in time to see it and capture it with my phone. Did you see it?
Of course, yes. Millions of Kenyans witnessed the blood moon, and personally, I saw that, and I also documented that together with billions of people across the globe. That is Africa. That really view it clearly. Asia and some part of Eastern Europe, but unluckily, the North America, Southern America did actually, experience this lunar eclipse.
Kenya already has its niche as a world destination. How will this further place it as an attractive site for tourists?
Of course, Kenya having one of the or being one of the countries, with the best tourism attraction. Of course, this is going to be a boost for the tourism sector. Of course, that the launch that is a planetarium it also has to reflect with our culture, the nature, and of course the modernity, because you are talking about the technology that will be used, and of course according to the CS, this is an opportunity where the tourists and of course Kenyans will be visiting the national park or the national reserve, will experience what they've never experienced. And he also added that, of course, this is also going to boost our economy. Remember, Kenya is one of the countries that has had quite a number of tourists visiting, especially during this summer.
All right, let's move on to this story now. Africa's largest dam is triggering an alarm down the Nile River. This Grand Renaissance Dam is still to be fully inaugurated by Ethiopia. It's set to be inaugurated later this year, and it lies on the Blue Nile. What are the issues that Egypt has over this?
Of course, Sandra, this is of course this is one of the biggest dams that Ethiopia has built along the Nile, which is a 5,150 megawatts capacity dam. But we have a dispute between countries in dispute. That is, of course, Egypt and Ethiopia and Sudan. Of course. We've had an issue to do with the control of the flow of water in these countries. Of course, Egypt feels that, of course, this dam is going to hold, a lot of water, and this water is being useful or is being in use or is needed by Egypt, because Egypt solely rely on a Nile water for irrigation and, of course, for the domestic purposes. And of course, Sudan and Egypt say that, of course, once the dam is launched, of course, the dam is going to be launched this week, we might see shortages of water supply in these two countries. In a joint statement, of course, Egypt and Sudan terming, the Renaissance Dam a breach of international law that would also cause grave consequences to the two downstream countries. Of course, these are continuation of a threat to water security in the East Nile, citing, of course, they said, quote-unquote, serious concerns as a result of Ethiopia's unilateral steps in filling and operating the dam. Of course, Egypt, with a population of 100 million people, they rely on Nile for its agriculture and water needs, and find it's what it has considered the rightful share of water and could threaten the development upstream.
So let's talk about Somalia briefly, because we are out of time, but maybe in about a minute. The country has officially launched its e-visa system for foreign travelers. How will this work, and when will it take effect?
Of course, they have already launched the e-visa or ETAs. Of course, this is through the Immigration and Citizenship Agency of Somalia, and they launched it 1st of September. Of course, the system allows foreigners to apply for visas electronically via the agency's official portal. Of course, this marks an historic milestone in Somalia's adoption of the modern digital immigration system. And according to the Department of Foreign Affairs, Isaac Hassan Takov, the platform has been under the preparation for a very long period of time and designed to simplify visa applications, making the accessible to travelers anywhere in the world. Of course, he also added that, of course, some of the people or group of people will not be subjected to this platform. We are talking about, of course, the diplomats, residents, of course, countries with a visa-free agreement with Somalia, the UNLP passport holder nationals of countries. Of course, this has already taken effect, and for the very first time, Somalia has e-visa system in place.
Right, Dennis, thank you so much again for your time. We'll leave it there for today, and we'll chat again next week, Tuesday.
No problem. See you soon.
Thank you. Dennis Beru, one of our resident analysts who zooms into the East Africa region with us, speaking to us there, journalist and team leader at Grassroot Journalism Kenya. Let's get our news headlines now. It's 6:30 Central African Time. Good morning, Onele.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.